Hi, I'm Melanie O'Connor. I'm Head of Marketing here at BDO Ireland, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Pip Hare, who is the 8th woman ever to complete the Vendee Globe yacht race and the only female British CEO of an international ocean racing team. So one of Pip's key phrases is that more men have walked on the moon than women have completed the Vendee Globe. So Pip is an inspiring role model whose determination, resilience, leadership and endurance have seen her complete one of the toughest ocean races in the world, the Vendee Globe. It is the sailing equivalent of completing the 7 summits, the world's highest mountains across 7 continents. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Pip. We're absolutely happy to have you here.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here.
So what we'd love to start with is just a bit of a background. So would you be open to sharing a little bit more about where you started your journey? So what was it that had you fall in love with sailing in the first place?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I didn't come from a traditional sailing background. So I grew up in East Anglia, right in the middle of the UK. No water around. I just went to a regular comprehensive school. Most of my mates at school were really into live music more than anything. That's kind of what everyone did. And when I was a teenager, my parents sent us, as there were 4 kids in my family, and when we each hit 16, they sent us on holiday on our own, just to have some time away from the family, kind of just develop, in our own way. And I went on a sailing holiday and just absolutely fell in love with the sport. And I think at that time, as I'm sure most teenagers will agree with, you are at a stage in your life where you're ready to grow, to make decisions, to challenge the status quo, to take risks, but you're not allowed to. At the age of 16 is a really hard age because you're just not allowed to do anything really. And yet you put someone in a sailing boat and they get to make these incredible decisions. They get to manage risk. They get to decide where they go, how fast they go, what effort they put in, all of these incredible opportunities. And I just fell in love with the sport then. I loved being outdoors. I'm a very outdoorsy person anyway. I love the responsibility. I could see all of the opportunities. And from that moment, I decided that I wanted to make sailing my career.
Amazing. Yeah, I love it. That's that sense of personal agency that you get.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So what's the journey been like from that beginning and that love of the sport all the way through to tackling the Vendee Globe in 2021?
Not what I expected. I guess I've kind of entered into a lot of what I've done with this incredible naivety, which is nice in a way, because, I didn't believe or realise any reasons why I shouldn't go and get a career in sailing and become successful at ocean racing and all these things. So I left school at 18. I kind of worked out that I needed to get some experience and qualifications. I got an apprenticeship with a sailing school, moved down to the south coast, and that was in 1992. Now, in the early 1990s, I would say that female participation in offshore and ocean racing was probably less than 3%. And certainly in terms of female skippers, females working on the water, same again, less than 3%, maybe 2 or 1% quite often. And I wasn't expecting that. I didn't realise that it was an unusual thing to do. It was just something that I was driven to do. And so I immediately kind of went down to an environment where I was different. I was different in so many ways. I was different because I didn't grow up where everybody else grew up. I grew up in a landlocked county. I was different because I didn't grow up dinghy sailing. I didn't have that background. And then I was a woman, and I was a very young woman as well. I was 18, 19 years old. And I think, that was a shock to me. And initially, it's kind of, I didn't realise or understand or expect that those would be barriers for me. However, it became fairly clear after a while that I wasn't normal, I wasn't the same as everyone else, and therefore my ability was questioned often, but also my dreams and ambitions were not really accepted by many people.
Yeah. How did you navigate that?
So I think initially I just threw myself at it. I just was determined that somewhere there was going to be a pathway for me. And so I just kept trying. I tried so many different jobs on the water, and the amazing thing is that led me to travelling the world. By the time I was 22, I was already living in New Zealand. I'd sailed across 3 of the world's oceans. I'd racked up hundreds of thousands of miles. I'd tried all different kinds of routes within the sailing industry to try and further my career. And each time I kind of reached a dead end or a blocked door, or I couldn't seem to go any further, I just pivoted and I went and tried another way. And that actually did give me probably the bedrock of the experience that I rely on now. But towards my late 20s, early 30s, it really did start to grind me down. Then, I was very much, I'd kind of done all of my junior work, I'd done the legwork, and I very much was looking for those entry-level positions with professional racing teams, or the first opportunities to, I was regularly skippering boats offshore, but there never seemed to be any opportunities for me to join teams or go racing. And I think, there were 2 things there. One is I was, and still am, quite a shy person. I will never big myself up. I will never stand on a chair and tell everyone how amazing I am, because I believe in demonstrating what I can do, not talking about it, but let me show you. Just let me show you. But that's not the way the world works. And I did get quite ground down by it. And in my early 30s, I kind of stopped. I just stopped. I didn't stop sailing. By then I lived on a boat. I was travelling the world, but I kind of packed up this ambition I had to get into serious ocean racing, and I put it to one side, and I just thought, well, maybe I can satisfy this need by just doing as much sailing personally as I possibly can. But it just never left me. It was always gnawing away at me. And I think the really big revelation I had was in my mid-30s, and I suddenly realised I was fixating on the wrong thing. I was thinking about what I wanted to do instead of who I wanted to be.
Wow. Yeah.
And actually, it's, I was fixated on, I want to do this race, I want to get this boat, do this race, be on this crew. But actually, when you really take that apart, it was never because I wanted an accolade. It was never because I wanted to win, respect, admiration. It was because I believed I had the capacity to be that good, and I wanted to develop those skills. And I wanted to take myself as far as I could down that journey. And that kind of just really freed me up, because I realised then that I wanted to be the best ocean racer I possibly can be. And even if I had a rubbish old boat and was competing in a race that wasn't well advertised or well subscribed, I could still take steps to being that good. Because I just had to acknowledge the framework I was working within and develop myself and just not worry about what everyone else was doing. And it was so liberating.
Did that real revelation, did it change your approach to your, even the way that you showed up at races or in the industry or with your peers?
So I think it really did, and I would say I've had a stealth career, if you like, because from that moment, from my mid-30s, I kind of realised that I had to make it all happen myself, and I would create my own opportunities. I would define my own success, and then, you know, decide at the end of each opportunity I'd created for myself, I would decide if I wanted to take the next step, what the next step looked like.
Yep.
And then I knew I had to make that happen. And I started solo ocean racing in 2009. My first race was a race called the All-Star, which was from Plymouth to Newport, Rhode Island. Every year, except two, since 2009 and 2019, when I started the Vendee Globe, so every one of those 10 years, I did something that stretched me further. And that took me, so from my first solo race to winning a double-handed race overall, to my first international solo race, to becoming the first British person ever to finish that solo race twice. And then I went on to lead the first ever female team to win the Three Peaks yacht race, to be the first ever duo to finish the Three Peaks yacht race double-handed, and that's a combination of mountain marathons and running.
Oh wow, yeah.
And each time I kind of finished, I thought, could I develop more? Could I be better? Could I continue on this journey? Do I want to stretch myself further? Is there more inside me? And I always said to myself, if the answer's ever no, then fine. But ask yourself this at the end. And if the answer's yes, then the next question to ask yourself is, do you have the emotional and physical energy to go on and take that next step? Because it is really hard. Creating your own opportunities is very, very hard.
Yes.
It's draining.
Yes, it is.
And each time the answer has been yes and yes. And each time I've worked out what the next achievable step for me is. And then finally in 2020, I got to the Vendee Globe race, which was my lifelong ambition. And for me, it is the toughest endurance sporting event on the planet, but it's also one of the few endurance sporting events where men and women compete on equal terms.
Yeah, nice.
And I couldn't think of anything that was harder to do. It's single-handed, non-stop around the world in a 60-foot boat. It took me 95 days. And I loved the way it challenged me. I loved the never-ending opportunities to do it better that came every hour of every day. And when I finished that race, I said to myself, could you do it better? What's the next step? Where are you going to go? And it was like, hell yes.
Yes.
I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do it faster. I'm going to do it better.
Yes, brilliant, brilliant. I can relate a lot to that, and I know there's a lot of women out there as well that can definitely relate to the story of feeling sort of ground down by the circumstances that they're in, or the circumstances that they face, or being different in a world that they want to excel in. You definitely have that real strong drive and resilience. Where did that come from, or is that something you build over time?
I would say I built it over time. It's learnt behaviour. And I guess there's two things. So one is that when I'm alone on a boat, I get the opportunity to just be me. And that's warts and all.
Yeah.
You know, I own my mistakes I own my success, all of it. No one is ever going to tell me when I'm alone on a boat, you can't do that, you mustn't do that, I'll do that for you, that's too hard, that's, no one can take it away from you, but also you cannot shy away from it. You might not believe you're capable of climbing a mast in the middle of the ocean, going 30 metres up in the air while the boat's moving. Mm-hmm. Believe me, I don't think I'm capable, but somehow I do it.
Yeah.
Because you have to, because no one else is going to stop you, or even, sometimes out of the kindest of intentions, someone will say to you, oh, don't, someone else can do that. You don't need to do that. There's someone better placed to do that for you. Someone with more skills, someone, in this whole world, we're kind of always looking for ways to outsource the difficult things because that's the way the world works. Mm-hmm. And yet I feel that when I'm in the middle of the ocean, and I have slept for 1 hour in the last 24 hours, and my hands are like prunes, so bad that I can't touch things because it hurts. And a rope has broken. It's the middle of the night. I'm scared. I'm hungry. But I'm the only person that can fix that. And all of a sudden, this version of me that doesn't exist on the land goes and sorts that problem out, and I'm strong and I'm capable and I'm resourceful. Yeah. And I don't always get it right, but it was my mistake to make. Yeah. And I own it.
Yes.
And that feeling, I don't ever want to lose that feeling. It's the best feeling in the world. The Vendee Globe race was the best 3 months of my life. Mm-hmm. And I guess because I've had the opportunity to experience that, because I've felt how good it makes me feel about myself, that drives me through the bits that are difficult. And whenever people kind of make me feel like I don't belong, or I'm not capable, or they doubt my ability, I just kind of remember why I'm doing this. And again, it's back to that original statement. It's about who I want to be. Yeah. It's not about what I want to do. Yeah. None of it is about anybody else's perception of me. It's about the freedom to be exactly who I want to be. And as a person, I'm always driven to find out what more I could do. Yeah. And I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can relate. Yeah, very good. I know that from myself and my own elite sporting background and journey, there's a lot of transferable skills that you learn through pushing yourself to the limit that actually transfer into business. So have you found the skills that you've learned through your sailing career have translated to your role as CEO? And what are the key things that you found most beneficial for that role?
They have, and I must say I am, probably the most reluctant CEO that ever walked the planet. I only ever wanted to be a sailor. Yeah. And actually, what's happened since my last Vendee is I've gone from being kind of a one-woman campaign to having a team, and all that entails. Yeah. And, we manage sponsorship contracts. We're kind of delivering multiple different outputs. It's not just about sailing anymore. It's actually about running a small business. Yeah. And so initially I kind of was in shock, going, I'm not sure I can do this. But actually, you're right, there are transferable skills, massively transferable skills. And I think kind of one of them is around prioritisation. Good one. Really, really big thing on a yacht. So when I'm sailing my boat, which would easily absorb 10 people's time, you could have a crew of 10 sailing my boat and they'd all be busy. Yeah. So I'm alone. I've got all these different things to manage. I've got to sleep, eat, navigate, fix things, trim sails, change sails, do my media, all of those things. So I developed a system of triage, effectively, to understand which parts of the job list need to be done first. Yep. And I asked 3 questions. Am I safe? Am I going in the right direction? Am I going as fast as I can? Safe comes first. Direction comes next.
Yeah.
Speed afterwards.
Brilliant.
That really works for business.
Very much so, yes. It's foolproof method on this, yeah. That's brilliant. I've got one more question for you.
Yeah.
And obviously some of the people listening to this and watching this will obviously be women who are in leadership positions or aspiring to be in leadership positions in businesses and potentially coming up against this feeling of being different or finding roadblocks or feeling like they're a bit out of place. What would your advice be to people in those positions, and women in particular, to how to navigate those challenges and never give up on their dreams even when they're ground down by the challenges that surround them?
Well, I guess the first thing is just to acknowledge the fact that it's not easy.
Yeah.
It really isn't easy. And, you know, there have been times when parts of me have just wanted to, you know, I just think I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. But I would say just remember why you're in it. Remember what it is that you are trying to gain from this. Why are you driven? Where are you trying to go? You know, what does it give to you? And how does that make you feel? And I think, you know, those feelings, the surety of those feelings will take you through the difficult bits.
Yeah.
But also, I guess, embracing everything about your differentness.
Nice.
It's only something that I've learnt to do, you know, over time. You know, initially I just wanted to be the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
I really did, because I perceived them to be good at what they did.
Yeah.
They were good at what they did, but I realised, you know, ocean racing, I realised I can't do what they do. I'm not the same shape, I'm not the same size, I don't have the same physique.
Yeah.
But I do have this.
Yeah.
I do have an attention to detail. I do have the ability to think clearly through problems before I go ploughing in. You know, all of those different things. And actually, they will make me successful, but my path to success will look different.
Yeah.
But it's mine. And so I have to embrace it.
That's brilliant. And there's an element of playing to your strengths in there as well, which I think is
Yeah.
good. Owning your strengths and playing to them.
Absolutely,
And not
yeah.
giving up on who you are. Well, it's
Yeah.
so good. Well, it's an absolute pleasure. You're an absolutely inspiring person, and honoured that I get to
Thank you.
speak with you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate having you on.